We are, of course, continuing our look at the battle for gender equality with a focus today on academia. It's a training ground for future female leaders, as well as a place with challenges and opportunities of its own. Tania Bryer sat down with Baroness Valerie Amos, a director of SOAS, University of London. She asked her what changes she's seen for women in academia in recent years.
Oh, there have been enormous changes. So we now have more women vice-chancellors, so women at the top of the organisation. Certainly in a place like SOAS, looking at our student body, we have more women than men. So I think, you know, across the board, pretty much, a lot more young women are going into university. There's a lot being done in terms of what are called STEM subjects, so, you know, sciences and technology and maths and engineering and so on, which I think is really, really important. University's doing a lot of work around tackling sexual harassment and sexual violence. And of course there's the work on the gender gap and also the pay gap. At SOAS, what we have seen is that we've got about 60% women employed, 40% men, but that reverses when you look at academia. And if you look at the professional services, it's the other way around. It's 60% women, 40% men. And then in terms of the gender pay gap, this is something that we really have to work on, because the more senior you get, you find that you have more men in those senior positions. Although I have to say that SOAS is in a pretty good position. Our chair is a woman. I'm a woman. I have women on my executive board, not just as heads of department, although there's a lot of work to do there, but the registrar is a woman and one of the pro-directors is a woman.
But you were the first woman director, Valerie, of SOAS. Wasn't that long overdue?
I think the changes are long overdue in academia. I've said since I came in to this sector that I think that we've been too complacent for too long. Although you've got about 23% now of women leading universities in the UK, it's taken us a long time to get there, and I think that the movement is still too slow. My other concern is that although we look at these different sectors, that we really need to take a much more holistic approach. We need to look at this in an integrated way. There are real cultural factors that have an impact on how young women perceive themselves, on their thinking about the kinds of careers that they can go into, and what is happening in certain sectors in our society. And if we don't take on board those deep cultural, structural factors that are having an impact, the initiatives will only take you so far.
And we need to go further. Valerie, we had one of your peers, Manoush Shafiq, director of LSE,
yes,
recently in for an interview, and she was saying that female students are against quotas to get into positions. Is that something that you see as well?
Yes, I think young women are very, very against quotas. They want to be judged on merit. They think that quotas don't judge them on merit. It's about, you know, setting an artificial standard that you want to achieve. My experience, and it makes me feel very old saying this, my experience is that if you don't set yourself targets, not necessarily quotas, but if you don't set yourself targets, if you don't drive organisational change, it doesn't happen quickly enough. And I do have a concern that young women who feel that they are operating on a level playing field, and I'm delighted that they feel that they do. They want to operate on a level playing field. They want to be judged across the same criteria. That when they hit these barriers, some of which are structural, some of which are cultural, that they don't have the experience to help them across those barriers. It used to be called a glass ceiling, then it became a concrete ceiling. However you describe it, there are still barriers, there are still challenges that need to be overcome, and we need to help our young women to understand that actually the playing field is still not level, and we need to give them the tools to help them to overcome it. And then, of course, there's the added issue of you know, black or ethnic minority women, the additional challenges that they might face. If you look at the issue of disability in organizations, we're not necessarily doing very well. So inclusion is a big thing, I think, for us.